Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome, welcome. Welcome to another round of kick-ass Let's Plays from a sad man who lives alone. So, with all these pig enemies in this game, there's something I want to say, but I don't want to sound like that frackin' autistic spurg from that AGDQ video. You know the one I'm talking about, where there was that poor guy trying to speedrun Tomba 2, and then the aforementioned autistic spurg came and sat right next to him. They didn't even know each other in advance, and the spurg tried to make the speedrun into his very own Game Grumps type show, and he had all of his terrible jokes that he would make, one of which being, "Gee, there sure are a lot of pig enemies in video games." And then, of course, the video finally, closed with its famous conclusion where the speedrunner said, "I would really prefer if you would just be quiet." And then the spurg got up and started doing jumping jacks. Gosh, people have looked into that guy's life to figure out, what happened to him after this event, and surprisingly, that whole bizarre saga wasn't the only, embarrassing and terrible thing to happen to him. There was also a separate incident once where he was trying to do a stream, and he accidentally gave away the password to RDP his computer. Everybody in the chat heard it, because it was like a two-person stream, and his friend asked him, "What's the password to RDP your computer?" And he said out loud, "Oh yeah, it's blah 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 blah," and everybody in the chat was all like, "No, don't do that, you idiot." And then, of course, the chat used that password to take over his stream, and I think they put Goatsy on there, within seconds of him giving out the password, just immediately Goatsy on stream. And oh, the internet is funny sometimes, and other times not so much. Other times it's just college kids asking for free money from people who can't give it. What do you expect when you demand socialism in an internet comment section? You really think the other commenters are gonna be able to make that happen for you? You think AssButt223 is just gonna change how the world works because AssButt125 asked for it? People on the internet truly have no idea how the world works. So this boss battle's tricky, because if you fall on the bristles down there, you won't be able to charge up and get back where you need to be. Because it takes the charge a good second to charge up, and then if you get hit by the bristles, it'll reset the meter, and you'll just get stuck in a loop of being unable to charge, and you will die. As YouTube Poop Ganondorf says, you will die. It feels like my overall opinion towards YouTube Poops has gone through 3 distinct phases over the years. I mean, when they first became a thing when I was in middle school, I was all, "Oh, these are the funniest things ever," and I would watch them every day, and I was constantly on the edge to see what was new in the pooping scene, so to speak. That was the first phase. And then when I was in high school, there was this turnaround where I decided, "Oh, I'm too mature for this. I can't watch these anymore." And anyway, and then the third phase is the present day, where now I've been out of college for about 2 years, and I'd say my humor's kind of cycled back around to where it was in middle school, and now I find YouTube Poops funny again, and I more think about less the content of the video and more the person that uploaded and all the insanity that happens in these videos, and I think, gee, this was something that somebody consciously decided on. Somebody sat in front of an editing program and decided that it would be funny if Buzz Lightyear fired off his laser and then real footage of a house burning down was spliced in. And they were right, it was funny. But yeah, I still find them funny, but perhaps for a bit more nuanced reasons than I did when I was in middle school. That's kind of a douchey thing to say. "I have the same opinion as you, but my opinion is more nuanced and therefore better." Don't be a douchebag. Yeah, don't be a douchebag. So, we've got a minecart themed stage, as that was the common trope in the 16-bit era. This concept also appeared in Donkey Kong Country, although this game did it first, I think. This came out in 1993, while Donkey Kong Country would have been the year after that. But anyway, what was I gonna say? So, let's talk more about the history of this series, as I often say. So, the fine folks at Konami tried to reboot this series on the Xbox 360, as Christian would call it. But yeah, they tried to reboot this for the 360 in 2008, and people hated it. So, let's do a post-mortem of what they could have done with the reboot to make it more appealing. Okay, so the first thing I would do, since that one Zoomy on Reddit told me that nobody remembers Sega or anything that they did, that means we have to... Our first change needs to be to take Sparkster out of the game altogether, since he's an irrelevant mascot that nobody remembers. So remove Sparkster and replace him with Johnny Bravo. That's change number 1. And then change number 2... Since all the cool youngsters out there like their memes, let's put in some content-aware scale memes. You guys know about content-aware scale, don't you? It's that Photoshop filter.
You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the number.
So there you go. That's how I would have fixed the Sparkster reboot from 2008. Johnny Bravo and content-aware scale memes. But not Johnny Bravo in content-aware scale memes. That would have just been excessive. No, don't do that. So anywho, speaking of games with significant and difficult-to-ignore problems, have you guys been following that new Pokemon game that comes out next week? Yeah, how about that? It's got N64 water. Really just goes to show that at some point the Pokemon people figured out that people are gonna buy whatever they put out, regardless of quality, and the bottom has really fallen out at this point. They realized that you'll pay $60 for literally anything. And so now they're selling you N64 water in 2022, and you're just gonna lap it all up. You fucking cow. Anyway, this is getting weird. So this boss is a little tricky. It mainly has to do with the timing of jumping over those blue balls. Blue balls. It's a lot harder than it looks because there's a little bit of a delay on the jump button where I'm pressing the cotton picking button, but it ain't responding. As Josh said in Drake and Josh in that one episode, I'm pressing it. The key is to just do it a little early. Gotta compensate for the delay. Gotta give the developers props for what they did with the overall pacing of this game. This definitely suits the ADD-addled speed of your typical Sega Genesis game. There is never a dull moment in this game. It's just one set piece after another with nothing in between. Perfect pacing for Let's Plays. It just never slows down, like that movie about that bus that couldn't slow down. Remember when they had that Cyanide and Happiness parody of the bus that couldn't slow down, or whatever it was called, and they paced it in a way so that the concept was introduced at the very beginning of the video, and then the majority of the video was about something else, and then they bring the bus back at the very last 10 seconds of the video when you've forgotten about it, and it blows up, because that was the rule. It was going to blow up if it went under 50 miles an hour. That's what we call a misdirection in the comedy world. I haven't followed Cyanide and Happiness in such a long time. I bought one of their books a couple of years ago, just a collection of old comics and such. And what have they been up to lately, I wonder? All my favorite internet people from the 2010s just seem to have faded into obscurity, whether it be Cyanide and Happiness, or Jontron, or PBG, or all of those people. Everyone who peaked in 2014 is just virtually invisible now. There's a whole new generation of YouTube out there. It's a bunch of shit that I don't recognize. What was that speech that Grandpa Simpson gave about not being cool anymore? I used to be cool, but then they changed what cool was. Now what cool is weird and scary to me. And it'll happen to you. I don't feel too bad about getting old and becoming irrelevant and uncool. The part of it where he says it'll happen to you, I've really grown to appreciate that part of the speech because that part's not directed at me anymore. That's what I can say to the new generation now, because I can take comfort in the fact that someday all the current cool young people won't be cool and young either. Soon they too will know what it's like to be pushed out of cultural irrelevance, and they'll be just like me. And it's probably gonna happen real soon. As previously stated, it'll happen to you. Gosh, that's a heck of a thing to say when you're only 26 years old. But by internet personality standards, 26 is basically 86. The world has moved on from all of the things that I found cool. So there we go. That was stage 2. Look at me go. Even on easy mode, this still takes very many takes to do. 'Cause back then, games didn't fuck around. They didn't have to compensate a bunch of fucking wimps.
What's that mean?